Welcome to the Constitution of Man, and so we recorded and worked on our last podcast for 6 hours on Joe Biden, and then we found out that there was an echo throughout the entire recording. So we're going to start this again. Luckily, more stuff has happened since then. Tell us about the policies, Nick.
Okay, where do you want me to start here? You want me to start with the policies?
Generally at the beginning.
Generally at the beginning. Okay. Well, I mean, I looked into some things. I mean, I didn't look at, obviously I don't have his complete policy list in front of me, but I looked into his tax policies and I looked into his healthcare policy, which I think, those are pretty important.
So what are his tax policies and healthcare policies?
Okay, so for tax policies, some things that stood out to me, let me pull this up here. He says he won't raise taxes on anyone making less than $400,000, which fantastic, right? But I feel like that number could be a little lower. I feel like.
You mean higher?
No. I think maybe don't raise taxes on anyone making less than $250,000. I think if you're making $400,000 a year, I think you can stand to pay a little more probably. I don't think you're hurting cash.
Do you think that's a self-protection thing? I don't know how much Joe Biden's really worth. I'm assuming it's more than $400,000 a year. But
that is a good question.
My first thought is either he's protecting himself or he is protected, or he doesn't feel as though if he lowered that tax bracket even further, anybody would go for it, because you have to imagine that means, right now, anybody who is making $401,000 per year is probably against him. So if he lowered that, that just increases the void of people. I don't know. There are obviously less rich people, but they have more say in the world.
Right. Yeah. I guess I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, not to defend it. I think 100,000 is a fair amount of money that people could make and have a reasonable life. I guess part of the American dream would be that you can make more, and if you really, really want that island of your own, if you just work hard enough for it.
Oh, I'm not saying take anybody's island away. I'm just saying if you're gonna own an island, maybe kick a little back to us. Yeah. I think you can still afford an island if you pay an extra $1 million in taxes.
Got island money, huh? Well, we don't have health insurance.
But long story short, that's not the worst policy, I guess. One thing that stood out to me is he's raising the corporate tax to 28%, which sounds good on the surface.
What is it now? Do you know?
It was 35%, and then Trump in 2017 lowered it to 21%. Now Joe Biden's bumping it back up, but only to 28%.
If I were to compare this to both sides actually being on the same side, I would say that makes it look like he's doing something good when actually we're screwed at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Corporations, they're the ones that have all the loopholes anyway, so they're not actually even going to pay 28%. That's just on paper what it's going to look like. That's the starting number.
Right.
And they got all the lawyers and find every way they can to pay less.
That would be another good conversation, Pete. We should really come back to the idea of what is Joe Biden going to do to ensure places like Amazon pay. Let's start with $1 in taxes.
Well, that was actually one thing that I saw that I do think is good here in his tax plan. It says imposing a 15% minimum tax on book income so that no corporation gets away with paying no taxes. Now, I have to look further into that to see what exactly that actually means, but that sounds, obviously this is from his website, so he's going to write it, in the way that he wants it to be viewed. So
I remember in the debates, one of the talking points of the opposition to Joe Biden, I think it was in the vice presidential debates, was Pence saying that on their website they were against fracking, but Kamala's for it. And then they were talking about the Green New Deal as not what they wanted to do, but they had a comparable plan to it. But on their website, they cited the Green New Deal as part of their platform. So that would be
Kamala or someone else.
It's the Kamala Biden platform in general. At that point, they were debating the vice president and current president, and essentially on the campaign website, it said that they were for the Green New Deal, when in the debates they were actually saying they weren't for the Green New Deal as it stands. So there was a little bit of miscommunication there, and they didn't actually do a very good job of saying which one is true. Obviously in the debate they were saying, no, that's not what our campaign, that's not what our campaign stands on. But if it's on your website, the people reading it are going to assume that, and you did not do your due diligence in making sure your website is accurate, which is misleading and should be construed as such.
Yeah, I think the problem is like now they associate the Green New Deal with like the radical left, as they want to call it. So now Joe Biden probably wants to distance himself from that idea, but just like Medicare for all, it's all those progressive ideas that are, honestly, if you broke it down, they all make sense. But they put this coating of like radicalism over it to scare everybody off. That's what it seems to me. But I don't know.
I think so would you say, in your opinion, are we regretting it now? Because I was having this thought of the idealistic vote versus the pragmatic vote. The idealistic one obviously being not voting for Biden at all, and then the pragmatic one taking the victories where we can. I think
for Biden, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, to vote for Biden was the pragmatic victory, because at least we're getting something. But it's just more and more obvious that he won this campaign by as the opposition said, he hid in a basement, and I haven't enjoyed anything he said coming out of it. What you said about raising it back to 28%, when under Obama it was it was 35% on corporate tax. It's what we were promised. Biden was better. That is better. It's just not, it doesn't even start to fix the damage then on that front.
That's the problem, is now all Biden has to do is be better than Trump, and he's a success.
No. Yeah, well, that's the pessimistic view. Now he has to fight for, everyone's votes, and over the course of the next 4 years, because obviously he's going to try to run for a second term, unless he's one of those people who doesn't do that.
That's what I've heard. I've heard that he's planning on starting. He's going to have his first campaign rally on Inauguration Day.
So he's literally copying Trump? We're going to have 4 years of rallies?
Oh, no. I thought you were talking about Trump running again. Sorry.
Oh, no. I don't.
If Biden survives to 2024, I think he'll definitely run again. Yeah.
I sincerely want to avoid talking about Trump on this podcast for as long as possible, as far as I'm concerned. Not to disrespect anyone's political beliefs. I know this is not exactly what we're here for, but this one is political. Trump is a racist. He's sexist. I'm sorry if we lose views for that. And
for saying Biden's a racist.
Biden is probably a bit racist too, in all honesty.
Yeah. I think you got to be a little racist to think it's okay to be like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, to a bunch of black people.
Well, not only, I think Biden's been doing politics so long. I think it's a naturally, as someone who actually considers getting into politics sometimes, it seems like a naturally corrupting place to work. And he's been doing it for so long. I don't know if he really views people as people anymore. I don't know if he just views them as like both people and a resource, and the people that tell him he's not good enough. I can't imagine it's always easy to be the president of America when you cannot make everybody happy.
Right.
I mean, and people are so outspoken in America, just not to give him any leeway here, but at the same time, it just kind of goes into that idea that the longer you do politics and you watch how people move, the less you start viewing them as actual people and just more like a bunch of trends and patterns like the Matrix.
Yeah, it just seems really entitled. I mean, that's the feeling I keep coming back to with Biden, is I feel that he just is very entitled. Like, and I know you wanted to bring this up probably later in the podcast, but the civil right, how he flipped out at the civil rights leaders, saying like, I'm the only white boy you've ever seen do that. Like, if you feel like you have to put on that like front because you're talking to black people, like you might be a little.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, yeah, and just for the people who may not have heard about this, so they aired a Zoom meeting between Biden and I think it was like 9 civil rights leaders from the Black Lives Matter movement and various other organizations, and it started off pretty nice. I mean, Joe Biden had some, I guess, relatively inspirational, nice things to say in the beginning, and went on to listen to each one of them talk in turn as they were on some sort of deadline. And the last person talks, and Joe Biden, after being just silent this whole time, kills the whole thing. He gets angry. He says, "Let me change. Let me set something straight with you." And he starts telling these guys that they're going to have to, they're going to have to just accept him for what he's doing and just, take it on blind faith that he's going to do everything in his power to help them. And, it did come off as entitled. It came off as Joe Biden said, well, what more do you want from me, when he hasn't done anything yet?
I mean, if you look at his history, I mean, he's been pretty, I would say, devastating to the African-American community. I mean, if you talk about the crime bill that he helped write in the 90s, that basically started the drug war.
Yes, and and not only that, his ties to former KKK members, that was a big thing. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know if I heard about that one.
Yeah, we already had this conversation, but I did like some other various sprucing on him. Yeah, he denounced him later, but there was a time where he was on friendly terms with the KKK. I mean, it's one of those things.
That was way back when.
That was back. Yeah, that was before the 80s, I guess.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I did hear. Well, I don't remember it personally, but.
Well, and it's neither here nor there. I mean,
I wouldn't say it's here nor there. It's definitely relevant to who he is as a person.
I may have misspoke. I think we're all trying to give him a proper chance here. I think all of us want to believe this is going to be a lot different than when Trump, got into office. And it will be different. It just won't be that different.
Yeah, it's
but
definitely very status quo. I mean, as he said I believe he was speaking to like a Wall Street group or something, and basically said nothing will fundamentally change.
Yeah, I think he argued a whole lot about not using executive order and this, that, the other. I think it's ridiculous. I think you should come in. I think all he had to do when he was talking to the civil rights leaders is say, I hear you. I welcome the chance to be, held accountable, and we'll be in chats. I mean, you don't have to promise them everything they're asking for in that, in any exchange, when you don't have the facts and figures to say, yes, this will happen by this date, but you don't have to be a douche about it. I mean, as you say, he's an entitled man. Joe Biden, I think the problem with someone who can reach across, party lines at this point in a country that is this polarized says something about the moral ambiguity of someone who can hold two, mutually exclusive ideas in their head and try to give everyone. It might be effective. It might be what we need at this point. But as far as him as a person, I don't know what kind of person can both respect, you know, a party that put the most disrespectful man on the planet in the presidency and still tell the people who opposed him for 4 years that you're going to fix all of this, or you're going, it's an impossible task. And he seems really confident about it. He doesn't seem humble about it at all.
No. That's one thing I would say. Joe Biden definitely is not as humble, for sure.
He's not, but he's not even fun. Not to. It's not a beauty pageant. I mean, obviously, I like the idea that Joe Biden is willing to surround himself with subject matter experts. I think that is probably the most important thing that a politician can do is, make sure they have the right information to go on. But his motivations aren't that he himself is. What I'm seeing is what they accused Obama of. It was just kind of being this empty, hollow shell with a hand up the back, and
no, that's kind of par for the course.
But I didn't feel that way about Obama. I mean, I felt sincere intelligence from him. Maybe it's an age thing. We're talking about 70-year-old men. I don't expect the sharpest tax ever, but I also probably wouldn't vote for most 70-year-old. I don't think if I had the choice of literally voting for anybody as a Democratic nominee or whatever, I would ever vote for people who seem like they passed their intellectual prime a little while ago. If you catch my drift there.
Yeah, that's to put it lightly.
Yeah, I mean, not that brain elasticity is the worst thing on the planet, but there's a reason that the whole argument, well, one of the main arguments against him was it seems like his brain is melting, as I think you put it that way last week.
Yeah, I did put it that way, yeah.
Yeah, brain is melting. So how do you feel about it? Because for the viewers at home, I sold my soul early on in the Democratic Party this year. I automatically knew when Trump became president in 2016 that I wanted to support whoever was going to get him out of there. Nick wasn't going to vote at first, and I kind of poked and prodded at him until he did. So Nick, how do you feel about giving up your ideals at this point?
I mean, there's a lot of factors that went into me not deciding to withhold my vote. Mainly the way that Trump has handled the coronavirus. That was like, he just totally dropped the ball on that. I used to think that withholding my vote was the only way to have my voice heard, but I'm starting to see that, one president can make a huge difference, and just to not vote, I guess, like they say, when you don't, I think actually the way you put it to me, if I don't vote, I have no right to complain about what our president's doing. I don't know if you put it to that way to me, or if I heard it somewhere else, but I need to, I don't know. I guess I just felt like I had to take action to make a change. I mean,
well, I definitely thank you for taking action. It wasn't me that told you that you have no right to complain if you don't vote. I think withholding your vote, I told you that I respected that because I understood the inclination, and I projected my own feelings about the situation on the people around me, because I did feel like that was the best situation. I still agree with that situation. That voting for Biden was the only logical answer. And I mean, you have the right to vote. You have the right to complain if you don't vote. But the question is, how long are you going to hold out for? Because you could, in theory, just not vote your entire life, and it might not make. And I would say then you should, if you're going to not vote, another action you could take is getting other people to start a rally.
Right. Yeah.
And like no contest kind of thing in either candidate, and make a real stand that way.
Yeah,
but I think
make a statement in not voting rather than just staying home and not talking to anybody about it. Like, you need to that was the thing. It's like I felt like they needed to lose in order to get off their high horse and think that, people were just going to vote for them by default just because they're Democrats. Like the vote blue no matter who thing used to piss me off like so much because like, does that mean I just have to vote for a complete scumbag just because he's not red? Like, you need to. I feel like I want them to realize that like there is a huge swath of voters that are progressive and want progressive change. They want Medicare for all. They want renewable energy. They want all these things, and you need to do something for these people if you want them to get to vote. If you want to get their vote. And right now they just kind of take it for granted and they just assume, they fearmonger about the other guy and, they just make.
And they did deserve to lose. They absolutely they deserve to lose this election because they gave us Joe Biden. That was, in my opinion, there were other people who were just as capable of communicating with the opposite side, Bernie Sanders, that haven't gone through such a metamorphosis of beliefs. And as far as being entitled goes, I mean, I started viewing, reading stuff today. I started just seeing Biden as Anakin Skywalker, who just got it, he got put on the counselor, but he's not a Jedi master yet, and he's mad about it. And this is where he's at. He's all like, he could go Darth Vader on us now because we don't like him. Like, we said we didn't like you. This is nothing. It's nothing. It's in this, we being the Progressive Party and liberals and everything like that. Anybody who was more than centrist or rightly, or anybody who didn't actually like Biden wasn't their first choice. And he's angry, like he thinks it's unfair, and I'm waiting for him to go dark side. But I think the true nature of the last 4 years, though, and this election and everything, is that metamorphosis that you went through, where you didn't feel like you could just do nothing about it, and being apathetic and not voting or doing anything else other than not voting wasn't an option anymore. And the government's true accountability is to the people. And when we get apathetic and stop voting and stop being involved in the political process at all, that's when they have the grounds to kind of just trample all over us. We didn't say anything. And that's where you can still complain because they shouldn't do that. But you're part of the guilty party in that one.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is the Democratic Party won't take any criticism seriously. And like they did in 2016 when Hillary Clinton lost, they just blamed it on all the progressives, the Bernie bros. So it's our fault that Hillary lost. It's not because she didn't campaign in any of the, flyover states or the, the Rust Belt. It's not because she was just a horrible candidate in general. It's because of us. It's because we actually wanted someone who was going to make a difference.
And we can spend the next 4 years doing that, though. We can absolutely not forget about this for 4 years, and we can keep talking about third parties, or not that America ever will be a parliamentary system, but we can talk about other ways that we can, get rid of the Electoral College. And I think it's obvious, in a new phrase we're coining on the show, as far as slam or fam for Mr. Joe Biden. I'm slamming the guy for right now. I'm not. He's not. He's not the devil. He's really not the devil. He's not. He's just some old guy. Really, like he's better. He's better than Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give him that.
He
it's a low
did
bar.
an interview with Colbert, and they were responding to the doctor problem, which we'll get to in just a second, with Jill Biden. And they had that old rich parent conversation with him where he's just like, and Jill, she makes the cookies, and yeah, and it's great like that. It was so softball, and I get it that we're all used to a much more hardcore thing. And if Donald Trump was on the set with Stephen Colbert, obviously the questions would be a little bit more hardball, and Joe Biden doesn't have anything to answer for this very second. But it just wasn't. It wasn't endearing. It didn't make me feel safe. It made me feel like Joe Biden is as creepy as every grandpa figure. I'm not just speaking about myself, I hope. But like, yeah, he really does come off as that creepy old guy. And all those allegations of him making women feel uncomfortable, 25 of them, I believe, if I have that number correct. And
the sexual assault.
Yeah, and the actual sexual assault that was filed against him. I think Joe Biden is just another one of these white dudes who wants a nostalgic view of America. And I don't think he truly is capable of making a difference for organizations like Black Lives Matter, because in his mind, he's never seen true equality. And he not only has no knowledge of what a true equality would look like, but he has had decades of the opposite and getting told that was fairness. And, at least they aren't this way. At least they can eat in the same restaurant now. Because when I was a kid, that wasn't a thing. I feel like we made big progress, but it's big progress to a smaller mind, I guess.
Yeah, I don't see him making any serious change. It's just going to be window dressing.
Yeah.
Gaslighting, probably.
Move on to our next guy of the conversation piece. So as far as fam and slam, for those of you guys who don't know, fam is when we come across a guy who's doing great work in the world to make the world more fair, to make the world happier, doing good work, anything like that. If you're a good dude, you're part of the fam. And if you are making us look bad as males, we're going to slam you, because that's the accountability this world needs. So Joseph Epstein wrote an article from the Washington Street Journal, WSJ, and it was essentially telling Jill Biden that she didn't deserve to call herself a doctor, being the first first lady to ever go to the White House. The article starts off with kiddo, and just kind of goes on to pander to the idea that anybody that doesn't have a specific medical doctorate is not worthy of calling themselves a doctor, and that they give out doctors whatever. He has 2 full paragraphs talking about how Bill Cosby and various other Stephen Colbert have honorary doctorates from places, all to end with him saying that Jill Biden earned her doctorate. And so it's not the same thing. And he's really just, trying to swing his metaphorical penis with a pen here. Nick, thoughts?
My thoughts. I think he's clearly a scumbag, first of all. I mean, I think he has said in a previous opinion piece at some point in his life that he would like to, if he was able to, he would wish homosexuality off the face of the earth. So I think that's pretty good.
Remember that.
Pretty good ballpark of where he's at on the spectrum of good versus evil. But yeah, definitely slam that guy.
Joseph Epstein.
Last name that guy.
He is the reason that this we will always have source material, because people don't change overnight, and everyone has a different view of what's fair. And I don't think people truly understand what other members of society mean when they say that we are fighting for equal rights. And it's going to be hard. If the request doesn't make you go, ugh, like, does it cringe a little bit, because we got to give something up. We can't have our same life that was built on, oppressing people and expect it to maintain itself now that we've oppressed the people. Now we have to, even if you don't go as far as reparations, fairness going forward would dictate a little bit more than just putting, various peoples of various different social groups in a presidential cabinet as a,
I guess the hope would be that by putting these people in the cabinet, maybe they will, influence policy in a direction that benefits their own communities. But I don't know if that's necessarily how that'll work. But I think, what would show more good faith is prioritizing that in your policies, prioritizing helping impoverished communities, or I don't know, just anything that benefits minorities, I don't know. I'm not a policy expert.
So what would you do if you were Joe Biden? Honestly, this is a real question. If I was in the presidency right now, I don't know what I would be tackling first. I feel
the pandemic is pretty pressing.
Yeah, that's going to take care of itself, though. I don't think any president can really take credit for a vaccine that the world made. No specific U.S. politician can say, I did this, especially because Donald Trump has been keeping us out of global efforts to make a vaccine.
Right.
We didn't want to.
I mean, it's not necessarily, take credit for the vaccine, but take steps to get the vaccine out to people. I don't know.
Stimulus check number 2.
Yeah, maybe better than a $600 stimulus check, because that's just an insult more than anything else.
It is. It is an insult. Canada, I know everyone probably knew this back in the day, but in case you forgot, Canada was giving out $2,000 a month for 4 months. I don't know what they're still doing, if they're doing anything for their people after that. But yeah, no, we were by far, of the wealthy countries, the least helpful to our citizens, which, by the way, leads me to a point that occurred to me. Doesn't that sound a lot more like the communist dystopia that conservative parties seem to fight against?
Save us from, yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. The entire idea that communist doesn't work well to it was all about everything is state run, and therefore, no one has their ability to make all the money in the world. And yet we're being told that we're essential workers. I mean, I work in a kitchen, so I actually was lucky enough not to have to stop working during this entire thing. But we were told we were essential workers, and that, despite everything that's going on around, despite our personal financial hardships, the economy is doing well. And all I have to say to that is, thanks, comrade.
All I have to say to that is I wish I had some money to buy stocks when the stock market crashed, because I'd be rolling in it now.
Yeah.
People benefited from that.
And I got that advice. I got that advice from the owner of the restaurant I worked at. And I didn't have any money to put into it. I didn't have $100 set aside that I didn't know I was going to need. That's the scary part about investing in the stock market, is you don't get that money out of the bank whenever you need it.
On the topic of stimulus checks, I saw a meme talking about, basically just a screenshot of a CNBC article saying second stimulus checks may be on the way. Here's what advisors say you should do with the money. The reported sum of $600 per individual may not sound like much, but can have lasting effects if used wisely, advisors say. Start by whittling down high-interest debts and bulking up your emergency and retirement savings with $600.
Wait, which one of those things am I doing with $600?
I'll put $100 towards my high-interest debts, which are probably, fucking off the walls if I'm broke during a pandemic and have been having to use my credit card to buy things because I have no cash in the bank. Bulking up my emergency savings, because obviously those are gone, long gone, in retirement savings. So I can put, $200 towards each of those, and what? Who are these advisors? That's what
at what point do I get to buy toilet paper and a PS5? I know it's not for the PS5, but the toilet paper was real. It was a real thing.
Yeah. It's insulting, man.
No, and especially when you can just wipe out that. In theory, you could just say no one can call a debt right now. And when the economy jumps back in a year, you can start tacking on interest again. And while people are paying stuff off, I mean, America is so afraid that anyone will like come out just a little bit better off this thing, which nobody will. People will break even at best, and right now they're all losing out. But they would rather than think that maybe
Well, to be
you
fair,
took a dollar.
there have been a lot of people abusing the, like the payment protection plan loans. There was a guy in Fort Myers actually who I think he's going to jail because he ended up claiming he got like millions of dollars from these paycheck protection loans because he was the owner of a business, and he bought like a yacht or something, something ridiculous, and now he's going to court for that. But there's a lot of instances of that, and I've heard about a lot of people abusing that. But people are going to abuse every system. It's especially in a pandemic where it probably was like kind of thrown together in a hurry, and not really. Because I actually, for my business, I got a loan to help me out, and the way it all went down, I thought I was being scammed because I got like an email. The email looked all sketchy, and like I talked to someone on the phone, and like they were like hired in a call center, and it was just overall very strange. But I could tell that it was kind of just thrown together in a rush, obviously, because they had to hire people.
Right. No, nobody was really prepared for this.
So it was probably
we got rid of
to take advantage of because there wasn't a lot of safeguards. But
no, and admittedly, my restaurant got an incredibly crazy loan, and and it seemed too good to be true that we could all start working and we were making like $0. We were making like 4 dishes every hour or something like that. It's hard to believe that you could, make up but that's neither here nor there. I don't think you can really hold people responsible. And if anything, why are these loopholes here? This is all stuff that sounds like their problem, and they're trying to make it our problem. They're turning us against each other by saying that people will abuse this, and therefore we can't give it to anybody. And
right.
You have to give people a chance. That is taking freedoms from somebody. That is what America is not supposed to be about. We're supposed to have good reasons for taking anybody's right to do anything. The obvious things like shooting people and everything else, but libertarians, conservatives seem to like, freedom, at least on paper. I know progressives and liberals that's pretty much in the job title, is let people do what they want to do. And hindering Americans because the very rich are able to find tax loopholes because they're owners of businesses and whatnot. Okay, well, so don't give tax breaks to businesses. At least not saying that don't make, what I'm saying? I know you're the owner of a small business, and I would apologize if that negatively affected you, but businesses traditionally have the ability to get out of, I'm sorry?
Because I wasn't abusing it. I did it as it was laid out in the plan. But this, some people definitely like this.
Yeah, I'm guessing these people have people to pay that can find these loopholes, or to either that or I don't suppose that most of these people who are abusing these things are doing it because they're that well read on tax loophole. Maybe they are. Either way, it's bad. And at the end, you can't get out of taxes without money to get out of taxes with.
Right.
And you can't, unless you can hire a lawyer who can do that stuff for you. Most people, even business owners, are not equipped to take advantage of everything at least that might be completely ignorant for me to say, and I would welcome anybody's, feedback on that one. But I fundamentally disagree with the idea that stimulus checks need to be less because people will abuse the system.
Absolutely not. Yeah, because the first bailout plan or the first COVID relief bill, most of the benefits went to corporations anyway. Like they were given, like I think airline companies, they gave like billions of dollars, and then they put in the bill, like as long as they promised not to fire anybody, And then, as soon as the time period ended, they started firing people left and right. Like, because that's just how it works, man. They get all the money. It's socialism for corporations, but not for people.
Yeah, which goes into these buzzwords. I mean, why don't you like ideas like socialized healthcare? But you do, but you do offer bailouts to larger corporations. It's because it's framed differently. They don't call it socialism when it's over here. They only call it socialism when you do it. It's reminding me. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Texas voting scam, but I think everyone has at this point, where Texas is trying to tell other countries that they didn't follow their voting protocol properly, and therefore Texas can sue them.
Other states?
Yeah. Did you hear about that?
I did hear. I think I heard Texas was suing like California or something.
I think it was Pennsylvania or Georgia or something. But yeah, essentially what they were saying was those states did not follow their protocols the way they wrote them, and that affects their constituents in Texas, and therefore Texas gets to tell other people what to do.
Interesting.
Yeah, really, it's been all over the news. I'm not going to go too much deeper into it because that's essentially the whole story. Is don't mess with Texas is now a big hypocrite too.
I feel like I heard
that
a court shot that down, though, right?
Oh yeah, Joe Biden is now the president. That was I think the Texas thing was like the last ditch effort at it, and they lost. So
yeah,
they didn't even get heard.
It's crazy to me how strongly people are holding on to this election. Like, they just won't let it go that Trump lost, man. Obviously, it's not helped by the fact that Trump is out there claiming, everything's a fraud. I mean, that probably directly led to it.
And this is where we can take the wisdom that we've gained over these last 4 years and really just remember that neither one of these parties is doing great work right now. And the biggest mistake we can make as citizens of the United States is to go back to thinking things are progressing along and that we can just take our eye off the ball. And because we learned that with enough effort, we can do either or. We can vote Trump into office or Biden into office or Bernie. Not that we're going to get Bernie again, but I mean, with enough effort. So if we keep that fire in our bellies and hold Joe Biden to the fire, I think he's somebody who can be forced to do what we want him to do, so long as we're paying attention.
Hopefully. I just wish I knew the best way to go about doing it,
Get people pissed. We're going to tell them everything on our end. Here at the Constitution of Man, we are here to tell you about every dude who is doing something wrong and every dude who's doing something right. I think maybe we need a second podcast just for Joe Biden, but
not a bad thought.
We can add that to a segment later. It's just presidential stuff. This is not all. They aren't all going to be politics, you guys. We do apologize if you feel as though we are not painting Joe Biden in a proper light, or we're not painting any of the parties we've mentioned so far. We're always looking for guests. Love to have you on and have a conversation about it. I like to think that when we do start interviewing people, we'll be there more to listen, because this is about learning here and not just spitting out our personal views and making you believe them. But objectively speaking, I mean, these guys don't care. We don't have anybody who cares about the people anyway. And if they care about anyone, it's themselves. It's their own personal party. I don't believe that there is a president for all Americans right now. I don't think that's, it might be a pipe dream in the first place, because I like to think I care about everybody a little bit, and there are people in this country I can't support them. I would, you have to denounce certain groups.
Yeah, you definitely have to denounce them, but I think a president for all Americans would benefit them whether they liked it or not. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's not necessarily.
You know what you're making Biden sound like? Anakin Skywalker. Well, just force them.
No, but I mean, like, you can benefit people that have disgusting views because they're probably, there's probably a lot of people out there, who are white supremacists who are, broke. They live in like terrible fucking communities that could be uplifted by the right policies, which would be a net benefit to the country, even though these people have terrible views. And, it might cultivate an environment where less of those views are propagated, more education.
Yeah. I mean, I think as long as there is a view to be had, there will be at least one moron who will have it. And it is kind of hard to say someone's ideals are wrong. And because it feels wrong. I mean, respecting someone's opinion, it seems like an inherent good that you can't get rid of. But I mean, there's a factual spot to this that when when your opinions start hurting other people, you start to lose the right to really have them, or at least they have the right to retaliate.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everybody.
But you can't
have terrible views, but it's mostly a result of the way they were raised, And if we can do a better job at creating better environments for kids to grow up in, you'll probably have a lot less of that.
I would wholeheartedly agree. I think the only way to fight these beliefs that polarize us so much is to all just have these conversations where we go over it and kind of point out the obvious, but you see how that's not actual fairness, right?
Yeah. It's just so hard to break through because people just don't want to hear it, man.
and it subsists. It's not something that you can literally just purge from society in a decade or so. You have to let it. I mean, you can't just go purge people. Literally, you can't just take them off the groups off the face of the planet. So you just have to keep saying your point over and over again and hoping that people will listen. And, even then you have to ask yourself if your beliefs are correct, because in theory, by the time I'm 40, there are probably going to be progressive views that I don't necessarily agree with because I've seen the world for so long or something. I'm old and I want mine or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I do. I question my own beliefs a lot, man. I mean, a lot of times I feel like very one-sided on a subject, but then if I actually think about it a little deeper, I can see both sides of it. And it's really kind of ambiguous, a lot of stuff. It's kind of hard unless you got to have a lot of information to make informed decisions and to really know, what the right choice is. I mean, I was thinking, I don't know how deep you want to go into this, but we were talking earlier before we started recording about some of Biden's cabinet picks, right? And
all the women, or all the women for the communications team, or his cabinet?
Different. So I had sent you a video. It was basically talking about all these people. I think I can't remember the exact positions that he picked them for, but long story.
Link in the description.
Yeah, it was. Basically, there were a lot of people from like consulting firms that had, there was one guy who was supporting the war in Yemen, that we basically supplied arms to Saudi Arabia to bomb Yemen. And he wanted to, invade Syria. He was like very hawkish on Syria. And anyways, it just reminded me of that because I was thinking about, you always hate when you see a president like appoint all these people. Say like, for example, Trump has Steve Mnuchin as the Secretary of Treasury, and he used to be an executive at Goldman Sachs, right?
Sure.
So that just seems like a blatant conflict of interest, where it's like, obviously this guy is going to be on the side of the banks. He's got personal interest in seeing the banks succeed. He's going to write policies that help them. He's going to favor them over us, more or less. So that just seems like common sense, like that's a bad thing. But then when you think about it, it's like, who are you going to pick for a position like that? Like you want someone who knows about the financial industry to be the Secretary of the Treasury, because otherwise, how are you going to know what policies need to be written? How are you going to know what regulations need to be put in place if you don't understand the industry? And it's kind of hard to find. I mean, I don't know this obviously, but it just seems like
Right. No, the qualities that make you the qualities that make you good at handling businesses and stuff like that are the same things that make you a scumbag. I see what you're saying.
yeah. I mean, yeah. It's just what is the way to go about it that you to find someone who's well read enough on a particular industry but doesn't have any interest in that industry.
Yeah, no, like yeah, it's kind of like my theory that I always want. I want politicians to completely just be hollow shells, kind of like Joe Biden, but without the feelings in the background where he has got his own personal vendettas. And I just want them to be good at what they do and good at doing what I want them to do.
Yeah.
I see what. Yeah, I and I think maybe that's a better discussion topic for something.
What I think we need, Nick. We need AI government.
I don't think that's I think anything you build to protect yourself is going to inherently try to. It's going to stop you from harming yourself. I think AI government would. I think so. Guys, I'm a moral relativist. I believe that every philosophy works to a certain extent, and then there's always a situation in it that breaks the whole thing down. So I think you need to balance ideas like idealistic views and pragmatic views in order, depending on the situation. And I think if you build a system that is foolproof and there's no way around it, then you're going to find that one situation where you need to get around the system to get something done quickly, and it won't work. This goes back into just like anything else. If you take the freedom to abuse something away, then you lose sort of its efficacy. So like in the same circumstance, like, yeah, if you wouldn't have effective business loans out there for people in need and have them be it would, and sorry, I'm going to just try that again. You couldn't have business loans out there for people and not have them abusable and also be super easy to get and effective and quick. I think the same thing can be true about a politician. I think you can't just put an empty hair. You can't put someone with no interest in the situation or AI government, because I think an AI government is going to work like any moral philosophy or any other algorithm. You're going to find one situation where it doesn't work and we're going to have no way around it.
Yeah, I do think in order for an AI government really to work, you'd need to have like some serious surveillance state going on, like microchips and everybody's information is in a database everywhere. Like there was no getting around, like, because you could technically have, loans available and have them not be abusable if all the person's data is in the database already. So they won't let you get a loan if you're not, approved for it based on the data that you have in your system. I guess you could hack that. Yeah, that was kind of just an off-the-cuff remark. I don't think we seriously.
No, sorry. No, I obviously I heard that and I was like, let's talk about AI government. No, I think there are no quick fixes. There are no easy answers. I think the amount of abuse you're going to see is going to be dependent on the country itself. And I think we have not been taking care of our minds in this country for a very long time. I think that is why we are seeing the symptoms of that ignorance. And the only way we get through that is to do what we need to do here at the Constitution of Man. We just breed better people.
Yeah, here's my take, Nick. Maybe if we didn't have a country where so many people needed this extra help, then these programs wouldn't be so ripe for abuse because people wouldn't feel the need to abuse them because they'd be all right already.
I agree. I really don't know. I don't know what would happen. I don't know how abuse works when people's needs are taken care of. If there are any like sociologists out there who know a little bit more about how people react when they are in need as opposed to out of need. I think the obvious thought process is, yeah, what you're saying. If they don't need the loan, then they wouldn't feel the need to abuse the loan. But I don't know. I think winning businesses are made of people who are hungry for money and go for it no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think you just have to account for it. I think that's the only thing you really can do. You can't
figure that in to the number. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't, you can't force people to be good without being evil, because forcing people to be good is inherently evil, in my opinion. I'd love to have that argument. But
yeah, we could start talking about China's social credit system.
next time, maybe. Next time. Okay. All right, guys. We're hitting about an hour over here. Sorry for the quick edit to the video. And one thing we wanted to talk about one more policy of Joe Biden before we just kind of surmise this whole thing for you. Subject matter expert Nick, what's the healthcare like?
Oh, don't call me an expert, please. I read over briefly Joe Biden's healthcare plan, and it's not what I want at all, but I mean, it sounds decent. It doesn't sound
What is it?
like it's the worst thing. Well, first of all, he's doing the public health insurance public option, not Medicare for all, but it creates a public, basically Medicare, similar, like Medicare-esque option for people who can't afford, other healthcare plans. And apparently that's supposed to help negotiate lower prices for everybody. I don't know what the truth of that is, but
that if everyone signs up for it, then we can all pay less. Is that the idea?
Yes, I guess just by having that public option and having the government negotiating in conjunction with all these other health insurance companies, that I guess is supposed to increase competition. And I mean, I don't know the logic behind it exactly. It just says it will better coordinate, will reduce costs for patients by negotiating lower prices from hospitals and other healthcare providers, which I guess that's pretty much what health insurance companies are supposed to do, right? But
maybe
why the plan would be any different, but I guess because it's supposed to be a lower cost. I don't know. I guess they're flexing their government muscle a little bit to make people pay a little less. I don't know.
Well, and that's great, but I thought the idea was that it just comes out of everyone's taxes and everyone has health care. I mean, I get it. We're not going to switch overnight, but
that's Medicare for all. Like, that's universal health care, but that's not what he's doing. He's doing a public option, which means keep all the health insurance companies as is, and then just add this additional government option for people who.
Did it look comprehensive? Or, I mean, I guess my question is, does it actually cover stuff? I mean, what can I once again, this might be a subject that we dive a little more deeply into next week. Let us know in the comments if you would like to hear more about the Biden healthcare plan. But my initial reaction just off that summation was
that's
so it's Obamacare. So we just still have Obamacare.
Sort of. I mean, it's not Obamacare in that. I mean, it's an expansion of Obamacare because they got rid of the
single payer thing.
The tax.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Is like single payer. The tax that
is Medicare for all.
Oh, so it gets rid of whatever tax it was that.
It was the mandate, the individual mandate, which was tax.
Taxes if you don't have insurance.
Yeah, you got penalized for not having health insurance, which
100%.
Necessarily agree with that, but I guess it was that's what their best shot at getting everybody health care. Didn't work out so well, but anyways, aside from the public option, he says he's going to help middle class families by eliminating the 400% income cap on tax credit eligibility and lowering the limit on the cost of coverage from 9.86% of income to 8.5%, which, I mean, that's a mouthful. But I guess now there's a cap on who can receive tax credits for health insurance. So basically, if you get health care through the healthcare marketplace or the government marketplace for health insurance.
The farmer's market of healthcare.
Pretty much, yeah. as long as if you make up to 400% of the federal poverty level, then you're eligible for this tax credit based on your income. So you'll get money to help you pay for health insurance. So I guess he's supposed to help middle-class families by getting rid of that income cap. So now people who make it doesn't matter how much you make, you'll be eligible for a tax credit. That's got to stop at some point. I don't understand how you can just remove the cap and not cap it at some point, because does that mean that...
I guess that means that like anybody can get tax credits.
What?
I don't know. It sounds like no matter how much you make, if I heard that correctly, you can get money to help with your medical bills. Is that correct?
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
It doesn't sound inherently evil. I mean...
No, it does seem a little unnecessary to let people who say make 10,000% of the federal poverty level to get tax credits for healthcare, but it's better than nothing. And to limit the cost of coverage, so right now I guess there's a cap on it, so you can't pay more than 9.86% of your income yearly.
And he raised that so you can't pay more than 8%. Okay.
5%, yeah. So you'll never have to spend more than 8.5% of your income on health insurance. That doesn't take into account co-payments, all the other bullshit that comes along with healthcare.
Right, and that's I guess my question is then deadline. Like, is this in the next 4-year situation? I know that we're gonna have arguments with the Senate. And we're not doing as well. The Democrats are not doing as well as far as Senate majorities and whatnot. But is that it? Is that what he thinks is a good health care plan, or is that what he thinks he can get us? I think that's
this is his plan.
Yeah, so we're gonna say that's the bet.
Sounds kind of decent. He's now calculating the tax credits based on the cost of a gold plan rather than a silver plan, which it's really complicated. I know because I just renewed my health insurance. I have a silver plan, and the gold plans just give you better coverage, but they also cost more. So he's calculating the tax credits. So the money that you're going to get to help you is based on the gold plan rather than the silver plan. So it's more or less, to sum it up, it's just more of a tax credit.
No, I hear you. I actually just got insurance myself through work, and it's going to take $65 out of every paycheck I get. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's bullshit, man.
Guys, I feel like we've talked your ear enough about Joe Biden for one day. Nick, do you want to go ahead and lead us out? Hit us with the like and subscribe chat. Go.
Yeah, if you like our podcast, hit us with a like, hit us with a subscribe. Smack that subscribe button like Joe Biden would smack his wife in 1960. I don't fucking know.
Whoa! All right. Smack that like button, but only if it consents.
Yeah, right. There you go.
That's the Constitution of Man, and we are out, sir.